other things we talked about. County bike and pedestrian plan, final draft still pending. Downtown trees, interlocal agreement with the city of Longview has been drafted and is being reviewed by Longview City Attorney. Lewis River Valley Industrial Park, RFQ sent to 6 potential consultants. Utility charge suspension, working on a draft policy. Embassy wetland tree removal, remove 16 dead or damaged trees. Need to award small project for the removal of 10 additional before winter. And that's it.
Is that all you're working on?
That's it.
Okay.
I did that all by myself.
That's it? Huh. Weird.
I have a
Okay.
question.
Mr. Fredericks.
We put out a notice for public comment on Horseshoe Lake. Is that accurate? A second round on the treatment? Is that not accurate?
Well, we're sending out the notice to I think there's 35 properties that have joined that. So we're sending that out to those property owners, indicating that we are going to be doing the treatment. And it says we will set this certain date as we get closer to it.
Okay, and has the city received any additional comment?
I have not received any additional comment.
Okay. Question on the pump replacement. There's been some concern that have been raised to me that really all we're doing when we address this, whatever we're going to do for the milfoil issues on Horseshoe Lake, is that if you look straight down into the pump, it's full of milfoil. And so some are suggesting that you're going to end up spending $25,000 a year, or however often that we're going to do this, continually addressing the problem as long as the pump is located where it's located. Is there going to be some discussion about moving that pump?
So,
It's your guardian angel.
I've never heard any discussion about moving that pump location. So, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Do we know if that's an issue that we're spreading the milfoil around given the fact of where it's located?
No, I don't think that's an issue. This company does 50 bodies of water treatments a year. They may have to come back next year, but they feel it will be successful.
Okay. I'm good. I may have further questions for you offline later.
No problem.
Thank you.
Okay. Questions for Ms. Hunberg or?
Our next meeting is next month on the 2nd, 5 p.m. Council Chambers.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Fredericks. Let me make sure I get, yep. Mr. Fredericks, Finance and General Government.
Yes, we met on August 14th, and it just came back to me what we had the Horseshoe Lake, or Lucky 21, representative from Lucky 21 Casino there to review their financial information as it pertains to gambling. Their revenue is a lot lower than we originally anticipated, I believe, for the beginning of the year. So we're looking at that, and we'll make sure that that is the correct or the best number that we can gauge will be utilized for the 2018 budgeting process. The only thing that I'll add to that is I'm very proud that we've never tied that money into a recurring expense, so it's not as difficult as some municipalities who are currently going through the challenge of not having the gaming revenue. But it will, without a doubt, have some impact on our funding for public safety. We also talked about the SMARSH, which has already been adopted and approved by the council, and also budget amendments. We discussed those, and those have also been approved by the council. And other than that, I don't have anything else. And seeing a head nod from a no by Councilmember Heffernan, we'll leave it at that. Our next meeting is scheduled for September 11th at 5:30.
All right. Questions? All right. Public safety, Ms. McCall.
Our August 21st meeting was canceled. We did, however, meet for a brief time at 5:30 this evening regarding a consent agenda item, which I believe we're going to pull off this evening. Our next meeting is going to be on September 18th, 2017. I did receive something in my mailbox today from the Washington Surveying and Rating Bureau, and I think that it's of note. It was addressed to Clark County Fire and Rescue, and what the Washington Surveying and Rating Bureau does is they do evaluations of fire protection capabilities, and then they do a rating for the community, which can and does have impact on insurance rates. And this letter is congratulating us because we have raised from, we were currently a protection class 6, and Clark County Fire District 2 was class 8. Both are being raised up to a class 5. And so that, it says the survey was not conducted for property loss prevention or for life safety purposes. The purpose was to gather information to determine a fire insurance relevant public protection classification that may be used to develop fire insurance rates or loss costs. And our new rating has been filed with and approved by the Washington State Office of Insurance Commissioner. So that has been accomplished, and it is an accomplishment, and we can thank our partnership with Clark County Fire and Rescue for that. And on an additional note of fire safety, and we do have also police officers responding as well to our fire mess that is happening in the gorge. There are many civil servants that are working in that area. I know today I was supposed to have a meeting with an animal control officer in Clark County, and he was on his way with a horse trailer down to pick up some livestock and relocate it. So if all could keep all of those first responders in our thoughts and prayers, and also the people that have lost their homes or have been evacuated.
Thank you. I threw that in your box, by the way.
Thank you.
I thought you wanted to know that. Human Resources, Ms. Humber.
We met on the 28th. Pete gave us an update on the security upgrades and pending an update on the quote that should have been received, I believe. We were given an update on the police officer and sergeant hiring, and that's going to public safety for the second meeting in September. Update on the public works hiring, and we had a meeting on that tonight. Update on the WPOA union negotiations, and that date has to be determined yet. Department head and mayor reviewed policy for step plan reviews. Pending review of job descriptions to match AWC survey. Our bereavement leave was probably the biggest thing that we worked on, and we redid that. I believe that's in tonight's agenda. And our next meeting will be Monday, September 18th at 5:30 in the council chambers.
All right.
Questions?
All right. Moving on to my limited report now. I was going to talk about the fire department, but somebody already got that. I was going to talk about the sidewalk opening, but somebody already talked about that. I will talk about the bocce ball tournament that I was part of. Paula, you're here still, aren't you? You wait. Hi.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, hello, Paula. Paula was there as well. What were you doing at the bocce ball tournament down at the park last weekend? Were you selling tickets?
I was doing nothing, I was moving.
Oh, I thought I saw you down there.
I was down there.
Okay.
To see how things were going.
Thank you for confirming that, because all of a sudden I thought I'd lost my mind. I knew I saw you somewhere. So I had a team in the bocce ball tournament down at the park. I'm happy to report that my team came in second. Just saying. I think, yes, I was the first loser. So I think we should have been first, because I think those that got first cheated. Because I did play against them. I know that they were wrong. No, there was a great group of boys that were in the the team ahead of us. They were nailing it. They gave us a run for our money, that's for sure. It was close, though, I'm sure of it. But that was great. Paula, do you know how much they raised for the library?
I don't have any email, so I haven't.
Okay, gotcha. You're very helpful tonight, Paul. Thank you. There was a few $100s raised. there was a handful of money, and also while there, some community members had the pleasure of seeing the chief in the dunk tank that was provided. You could purchase baseballs to throw at the chief to get him in some water. I'm also happy to report that I did sneak in. I did not pay, but I hit the button and got him wet first. So very happy with myself on that one when he wasn't looking. Chief, good job. Was it $100 you brought in on that? I don't know. I think I brought in 101. So
It was just fun.
it was just fun. It was a good time.
It didn't matter.
I also got into the dunk tank. It was quite an event. Mrs. Kluge went out into Horseshoe Lake and started gathering up people, and there was a line of children that were throwing. One young man, who I'm still on the lookout for, ran up, hit the button, and then tore off running up into the parking lot as he was throwing $1 as he was running.
Was he a little redneck?
No, he looked, oh yeah. No, it was not mine. My daughter was there, she did that to me, yes. I went down quite a few times, we'll just say that. Erica Rodman, I know you're not here, but she railed one in. I think it was her first ball, and give it to her. She's got an arm on her. I believe she took the chief out as well. That girl must have played softball or something. I don't know. She had something. And, little shout out to Gus Hydrigan, who is an all-star, I found out, all-star baseball pitcher, I believe, on his first swing. I believe he's 9. Took me down. Yeah, so we had a great time at the park raising some money for the library. It was a good time. It was a hot day, but it was a good time. Also, I wanted to address the DOT traffic issue that happened earlier this week because I know I've been getting a lot of comments, and I'm sure Mr. Karnofsky may have gotten some phone calls. I'm not sure, but that is being addressed. The work that was being done out on I-5 trickled into the city of Woodland for a short period of time Friday morning, which clogged up just about every artery within our city. So we'll be visiting with the Department of Transportation on a better plan in the future. The city should be prepared, though, that I believe they'll be striping later on this week, and that is before we're having the meeting with them. Although it will be talked about tomorrow morning when we meet with them at 9 a.m. on some other issues within the city and projects that we're hoping to get completed by then. Ms. McCall.
I had a question in that it appeared that part of what was happening was because we have this cool new social media stuff going on, that we had people that commute to Vancouver from Longview that didn't want to be stuck on the freeway in Kalama, and were doing Green Mountain and then coming down and landing in Woodland, which was
the merge point.
Yeah, it was contributing to the situation and making the problem worse.
Yes, I agree with that
I don't
statement.
I don't know how much of that,
Yeah.
how many of those cars were coming from trying to get around using Green Mountain, but it was interesting.
I know that Google Maps stated that it was a 3-hour drive from Longview to Vancouver that morning, or to La Center. I can't remember what was the destination, but La Center. It was a 3-hour commute to get that far. So, and heads up, also there's going to be some more work coming southbound in between Kalama and Woodland. So Kalama will be suffering. Hopefully not, but I would anticipate some issues in the city of Kalama here in the coming weeks as well. I am not a happy camper about the situation that was created within our city. Mr. Chapman.
Do you have, or Mike, have you heard a date when they're going to stripe?
Yeah, there is a date. That work is scheduled to actually start today and run through the 8th. There'll be some striping. They're also going to work on the railroad overpass. Chief and I spent a lot of time looking at the situation, talking to the Department of Transportation. I could give part of that report now, or wait for my report, whatever you want, Mayor.
Why don't you wait? I'm almost done. I'll let you, and that way what else do I have on here? I think that was it. Oh, and just on somber note, I want to echo what Ms. McCall. Again, I had a small report note here, but just that our thoughts and prayers are going out to those that are being affected by the storms across the country right now, and the impending storm that's about to hit down south again, and then also all those folks that are battling the fire that has jumped the river from Oregon. I've been a part of that this morning. There's a lot of concern over there, and a lot of people that are helping, and so. Thoughts and prayers of the city go out to them as well this evening. Ms. McCall.
One additional thing, because I do send emergency notices out, they did send one out actually just before I got to this meeting regarding air quality and for people to wear masks. And if you are working outside, they're actually recommending that you don't work outside. But if you are going to work outside, to drink lots of water and to wear there's certain types of masks to wear too that are rated for this, and if you don't have one, then don't be working outside.
Yeah. All right. Mr. Boyce. Mr. Fredericks.
On the striping, do we know if they're going to be striping 503? Is that what they're going to be striping?
No, it's all on.
It's all on I-5.
They described all on I-5.
Okay, that's fine. I was just, if it was 503, I just would, hopefully there'd be some communication that they're not doing it in the morning or the afternoon.
School has started. That was.
Yeah.
I did have the conversation with them though earlier in the week that hey, school's starting on or last week. School's starting on Tuesday. What's the plan?
Yeah.
We did have that internal conversation, and they told me that they'd be done, and they were. They did it all Friday morning apparently. So, yeah, Mr. Boyce.
Okay, I just have the upcoming events. September 6th, tomorrow. 11 a.m. we have our employee recognition event at the council chambers there. October 28th, Make a Difference Day. And downtown walking tour is going to be held in October. I need to pin down the exact
I think
date
it's.
on that.
Is it the 12th or the 2nd? It's the 12th, October 12th.
So that is also the next city council meeting. We should have, hopefully we'll be taking action on a public works director. So it is coming. That's all I have right now.
Questions for Mr. Boyce? All right, Mr. Ealing.
It's always an interesting time of the year after the legislature finally gets through, so there's always something going on. So just kind of a quick update on a few items. State subdivision ordinance starts at 817, and the legislature has amended that to allow city councils to delegate their authority for final plat approval to the planning commission or administrative level or department in the city. So something the city may look at. Means, from my perspective, you know, I always get fearful anytime we have a quasi-judicial meeting or proceeding, and so I need one few of those. State Attorney General's been busy too, had a Attorney General opinion regarding executive sessions under the Leads Act. And of course, we all know that the Attorney General opinions are not binding on the courts of Washington, so it's just, you know, kind of an opinion, and it really helps us if we're interacting with, say, the state auditor by saying, well, your attorney said you can do this. But that made it fairly clear. I think we've always operated under this sort of assumption that what occurs in executive session is confidential, and it would be violation of the municipal officer's code of ethics to reveal it. The Attorney General goes so far to say it's a criminal violation, but also hedges by saying, well, probably can't prove it. And the Attorney General also left out the provision that probably should be more compelling. That's potential $500 civil penalty and potential forfeiture of office or recall. So anyway, we have more definitive ruling on what happens in executive sessions. I don't think we have to worry about that because the city will, talk about stuff outside of executive session. Also, changes in the on the Public Records Act. They finally got around to saying that it's not a proper request from the Public Records Act to say, give me everything you have from day memorial, which is nice. But there's other things that are a little bit more concerning to us, is that the public records officer for the city has to undergo more training on electronic electronic records and information technology. It's nothing that the council or elected official has to do, but the public records officer. They also require us now to keep a log of our public records requests, and that's about 8 data points. So that's something we'll have to do going forward. If we spend more than $100 grand a year on public records requests or legal costs associated with them, then we have to keep a meter log and add an additional 17 data points to it. My assumption is that these are being collected so that the legislature can have some statistical basis to determine whether or not all the municipalities that are calling them, they're going crazy over public records requests, and they are. So I think bear fruit. And that's just kind of some of the things going on. There's other subsets to this, other things that change, but those are the main changes.
Thank you, Mr. Ealing. Mr. Fredericks.
On the public records training, are we looking at that as far as reviewing what our current situation is and then making adjustments to the new training requirements?
Yeah, we'll talk about it. And I'm not sure that the new training package is up yet. My understanding is that the Municipal Research Service and PwC is going to pull it together, and the Attorney General's office is going to pull it together, but it's not done yet. So it's we have a year to have our public records officer do that.
Did the Attorney General in his executive session memo provide any guidance to what would happen if a non-elected official was to provide information out of executive session?
No.
Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Ealing? All right, thank you, Mr. Ealing. Mrs. Anderson.
We have the utility bill comparison report. We've got your tax there, it shows a bit of an increase in sewer. Overall, like 24% in water, 24% in sewer, an overall rate of 26.17% compared to a year ago. Partially attributed to the hot weather, extremely long dry period we've experienced with that rain. There's we need to do an excess report. There were 300 customers with usage in excess of over 5,000 cubic feet, which is pretty big. Normally we have a much smaller.
That's good.
than that. So we'll try to run an additional 6,000. There were still more people. I mean, less than 300, but more people than we normally have.
I know.
So we used a lot of water this last year.
Okay.
They did, some sampling was done, and they monitored usage, and it seems pretty true that people use the water, unfortunately or fortunately. So that's just something you need to be aware of, that water usage was incredibly high.
I guess it speaks to some folks stating that their bills were extremely high this time, but it sounds like water's being used, though.
Water is being used.
Water's being used.
Two solutions, you have to use the water. There's no other solution.
Mr. Fredericks.
Question on how we proceed for the budget for fiscal 18. Will the fiscal 18 budget include an increase for water and sewer, or is that being delayed until we can review a water study?
Well, I think we need to do a formal utility rate study. And what I'd like to see happen, and I haven't discussed this with the mayor yet, so I need to hedge my statement, is that we try to reduce that increase as much as possible until that utility rate study is complete.
Okay. I'm sure we'll be having that discussion during the budget process.
Sure we will.
This year. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Chief Kelly. You don't want to talk about your dunk tank experience?
It was fun.
Okay.
I had a great time. I looked good in that little tiny life vest.
Yes, you did. I'm hoping there's a picture floating around out there somewhere.
And there's a good picture of my wife hitting the button to drown me. So.
All right. Mr. Jackson's not here. Mr. Boyce, Community Development.
The only thing we have on there right now is the planning commission meeting September 21st. We are using an interim planner right now, Brad Kilby.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Boyce. Mr. Karnofsky.
So the mess on Friday was really unfortunate. Chief and I looked at that. We were in contact with the Department of Transportation. We had asked for a sign saying local traffic only. Not only was it a problem people coming over Green Mountain, but some people thought they could get around the problem by getting off at 22 and trying to get back on 21 without realizing it was south. So there was a lot of significant problems. This morning, the chief and I had worked, and we had a meeting set up with the Department of Transportation until Thursday. And on Thursday, that was the first day they could meet. But then this afternoon, I got a call from Bart Gernhardt, the Assistant Regional Director. He apologized significantly, said that that never should have happened. The contractor was supposed to complete that work by 5 o'clock on the morning of Friday. Obviously, it wasn't completed. They didn't get all the lanes open till sometime afternoon. And he said, again, that was a big mistake. He wanted me to apologize to the council, the citizens of Wood, on behalf of the Department of Transportation. The contractor will face significant fines. The contract said that for every 15 minutes that he was open after the shutdown time, it's a $5,000 fine. So they will be negotiating that with the contractor. We talked about the upcoming work. He assured me he didn't see any problem in the upcoming work based on the times. I said that we still need better communication, and if there's any chance that people will be taking a detour through Woodland, we'd like a sign up there. So he again assured me that he didn't think that there would be any problems with the upcoming work. And again, he did want me to certainly express the Department of Transportation apology and chagrin for what occurred. We are meeting with the Department of Transportation tomorrow morning, as the mayor said, and specifically to talk about the long-term problems with Exit 21 and what we're going to do about that. But I'm sure we'll have some more discussions. We do have, on October 2nd, we will have the Community Development Block Grants public hearing to look at potential projects for 2018. Councilor Humbert talked about street maintenance and Horseshoe Lake milfoil management. There's been some concern about the park watering for the large brown field out there. And it's difficult to water that because once you get behind, you can never catch up. I think the city has a decision point eventually of are they going to put a sprinkler system in there and not have the carnival there. That's one possibility, and that would allow you to have a large green field. And then the final thing I wanted to add is 503 roundabout. The jail crew will be here this week to remove the existing plants, and we'll look at replacing those plants with some grasses and stuff that would be lower growing, and I think more in touch with what they're trying to express there with the mountain.
That was very well said, Mr. Karnofsky. And if sprinklers are put into the field, Mr. Bays, if you're listening or if you're out there, again, I'm going to express that the mayor would like to see the carnival rides down Davidson like it used to be. I heard him speak very, very fondly of seeing them as a child on Davidson growing up. So I just thought, you know, let's have a throwback. That's all. All right, questions for Mr. Karnofsky? Ms. McCall.
I just have one, and it's just a follow-up. We approved a delayed site plan that's for 75 townhomes, and I was going over that. It's been about 4 weeks ago. That's going to come out at Hillshire, and when I really looked at the site plan, there's a potential option for them to have another exit coming out onto Lewis River Road. And I'm a little concerned about the Hillshire and the roundabout backing up if you've got 75 more homes coming out at Hillshire. When we had that site plan, I did read everything that was in the hearing examiner's rules, but we didn't have this roundabout built when that was put up, previously approved. And now we've approved something that was just on hold, and we have some different conditions that are there, and so.
Is that the Sequoia Park townhouse?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think it's 35. I think is it 35 or 75?
No, there's 75.
Is it 75? Oh.
If I recall correctly, it's 75. And if it is 75, the drawing showed a space that could be emergency egress, and I'm wondering if we can do some negotiating with the contractor and have some form of a traffic study and see about having there be another egress onto Lewis River Road that might help. I mean, it's still going to be a lot of cars coming out, but then we're not going to have a pinch point that's right before that roundabout. I think that's really going to create a problem.
We can take a look at that, and you're right, there was an emergency exit that the fire department had asked for to get.
And since there's enough space, maybe we can actually make it be an exit for that subdivision.
Okay.
Mr. Fredericks.
So is this the same, is this the one that with 10 years ago, there's been a hold on it for 10 years?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do we have the ability to go back to the contractor with to say, hey, it's been 10 years, now we want to change possibly your scope of your project? I would think it's limited on our ability to be able to do that.
It's my understanding, but that's probably a better question for Bill. My understanding is that their grandfathered in for a certain period and they get to do what they said they were going to do, but Bill, you have a better answer on that one.
Yeah, well, I'd have to look at whatever we've done. I'm not familiar with it to tell you exactly, but as a general matter, no, they're grandfathered in. This subdivision ordinance or state statute that these things were extended for a period of time to allow people, because of the economic problems, to keep with their original plan. So maybe some kind of a friendly negotiation with the engagement.
That was what I was hoping for.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not telling them, it's probably not.
I would think it would be more, it would make their properties more marketable to have that, but who knows? Thank you.
Okay. All right. Ad hoc committees. Ms. Humberg, Cowlitz-Waukiacum Council of Governments.
Our August meeting was canceled due to lack of a quorum. Everybody was on vacation or at a meeting. Our next meeting is September 28th at noon.
All right. Mr. Swindell is not here for our AWC and legislative update, so I don't think anybody else participates with him on that.
As far
Yes.
as legislative, though, did we get some information on what happens with that chair and the process for filling this empty chair?
Mr. Ealing?
Well, it actually says when a seat becomes vacant, that the city council has 90 days to fill it. If it does not fill it within 90 days, then the county commissioners appoint the seat. So that's general state law. So the other thing we consider is that the 90 days would run after the election. It goes beyond the election date. And also state law says for a vacant chair, a vacant seat, that whoever wins that election takes the seat.
It starts.
So.
Okay, so the timeline is within.
So, yeah, so we counted the days, and the election, they said to be certified on the 28th, and the 90th day on the 28th.
Oh, okay. So then whoever is elected then will just fill the chair immediately instead of waiting until January
Correct.
1st. Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Mr. Fredericks?
Sorry.
No, that's good.
I'm going to assume that we're reaching out to those candidates to let them know that that's the case.
We can, absolutely.
They might not be aware that
And I'm
their
not-
job starts early.
And I'm trying to picture who's.
Carol Rounds and Dan Hall.
Okay, gotcha. We may want to put them on notice. Okay, downtown Woodland revitalization, Ms. Humberg? How'd you get to talk a lot tonight?
All I do is go to meetings. Meeting was called to order by Vivian. Our chairperson, Tom Golick, was not able to attend. Minutes from the July meeting were approved. It was announced that Vice President John Burke has resigned from the DWR by email. Vivian gave the August treasurer's report and it was approved unanimously. Hot summer night receipts were good and Vivian says it appears to be on track to break even financially, and we'll have that results at our next meeting.
Yes.
Vivian got both budget letters to Mary Ripp at the city on time. A curb grant, there will be a meeting with, and I cannot say her name, Natinda, at 10 o'clock to discuss the project. The group discussed the materials that she provided via email. There were several concerns expressed about the examples provided. Amanda said that this is the purpose of the public meeting, which may change the direction the project was going. The general feeling was that the project may not be headed in the right direction. There will be an open house tonight at the City Council chambers from 6 to 8. And that was on August 8th. Hot summer nights, Vivian reported, is going well, but there was some concerns for attendance. Vivian will probably not be chairing the project next year, and the belief is that the moving of the farmers market has decreased the attendance. Tom reported a similar attendance than in the past, some concern about getting the word out about the music. Vivian reported that Vivian reported that mailings resulted in some new membership. The downtown flag project is in progress and the banners have been installed and they look amazing. Wasn't any new business, and our next meeting will be September 12th at 9 o'clock, the court office.
All right. Thank you very much. Questions for Ms. Humberg? All right, moving on to, what time is it? Is everybody good? We need a break. It's 8:25.
Let's get this done.
Mr. Fredericks? Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. All right, Chair will accept a motion to approve the consent items.
Move to approve A, B, and C.
Second.
Okay, move to approve A, B, and C by Councilmember Fredericks, seconded by Councilmember McCall. Will the clerk please take the vote?
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Heffernan?
Aye.
Councilmember Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks?
Aye.
Councilmember McCall?
Aye.
All right, moving on to, that's nothing?
Move to postpone
Okay.
action item D.
Second.
Move to postpone action item D by Councilmember Fredericks, seconded by Councilmember McCall. Councilmember Fredericks?
This was at request earlier by the chief. The reason I asked for this to be postponed is I don't think we're going to need it, but I'd like to leave it open for the ability to be added to the agenda at a later time.
Okay. Ms. McCall?
What Ben said.
Okay. Further discussion on action or consent item D? All right, will the clerk please take the vote to postpone consent item D?
Councilmember Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks?
Aye.
Councilmember Heffernan?
Aye.
Councilmember McCall?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
All right, moving on to action items. Action item E, ordinance number 1391, amending personnel policy regarding bereavement leave, jury duty, and definitions. Final reading.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Humberg, seconded by Councilmember Heffernan. Councilmember Humberg.
We went over this at some length at the last HR meeting, trying to make sure that the union and the non-union and the personnel policy all kind of match, so that the verbiage is pretty much the same for all of them. And it's in our packet. I think it looks good.
Okay. Councilmember Heffernan.
I had submitted some language regarding expanding the family members that this would cover regarding the loss of those family members, and that language is not included in this final draft, and I'm
disappointing to see that that's not there. I think that we have an opportunity to support families of all kinds who experience the loss of a child, the fathers and the mothers. Since pregnancies end in miscarriage 1 out of 3, perhaps even 1 out of 2, this is a situation that surely has come up and will continue to come up. And without that definition to make certain that an employee can take leave upon the loss of a child before it is able to be born, it's just it's not fair and it's not right. I've personally suffered 7 miscarriages. 2 of those while here on the council, and luckily, because this job is once every 2 weeks, I was able to take the time I needed without interfering with my work. But that's not the case for most women, or most men as well, when their wife or their significant other loses a child. 3 of those losses occurred while I did work full-time and was not granted any leave whatsoever because the personnel policy did not include that particular situation. And since this is in front of us and we have an opportunity to correct that and include that language, I think that we should do that. It would be the right and appropriate thing to do.
Okay. Mr. Fredericks.
I guess I'm trying to understand how the city would ask for I'm trying to wrap my head around this. How would the city ask for proof on a situation like that, and does that not put the city in what I believe is a really difficult situation?
It can. There would have to be some sort of HIPAA waiver, and then the city would have to, would have that personal information that it would need to make sure it handled appropriately. But that's one of the issues that came up with the HR committee, and the HR committee decided to exclude the language because of the process and the information and requesting such information.
There are other avenues, I believe, in every either employee's contract or their union contract that would provide them certain amounts of sick time. And I believe every employee that is in the city, maybe with the exception of a part-time employee, is entitled to sick time. Would that be one of the items that would presumably be covered as sick time?
It would, because it is a medical event, and so yes, the employee could take that use of sick time for that.
Okay. That answers the question. Thank you, I appreciate that.
All right, further? Oh, Mrs. Heffernan?
The death of a human is not a medical condition. It is cause for bereavement leave, just as any other family member. You can take vacation or sick leave if you lose a family member. That's true. But bereavement, for it to only be given to the loss of a child after it is born and not upon stillbirth or a late miscarriage, it's putting women as a second-class citizen in that particular instance. And additionally, again, the father of that child, the parents of children not yet born are not given the ability to grieve their child in the same way as if that child were born, whether that's an adopted child, a foster care child, or their own flesh and blood child. This is not right. And I cannot support a bereavement leave that will not recognize this particular situation that happens, like I said, 1 out of every 3 pregnancies, and will likely happen to every single woman who ever becomes pregnant. And we have women who work for us, and they deserve the ability to use bereavement leave just as anyone else is who loses a loved one, a family member who is close to them.
Just a follow-up question.
Mr. Fredericks?
Did the Human Resources Committee look at other cities' bereavement policies? Because when this issue was first raised, I went through and I looked at probably 7 or 8. I didn't find any that included that language. Is there language that is out there that has been adopted by other agencies that address this issue?
I'm not aware of any such language, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I'm just not aware of any other jurisdiction with that policy.
And I'm assuming that if this were to happen to one of our female employees, this specific issue, the city would accommodate them with the necessary time off to bereave. It just wouldn't be called bereavement. Is that right?
Mrs. Ripp?
So at the committee level, we talked about child is included in the definition of being able to take bereavement leave. And what we had determined is that it's up to the supervisor or the administrator to allow bereavement leave if that's the condition they ask for and they get approved for. It's not that they're not going to get permission to do that. It would be handled on a case-by-case basis and they would put in their request.
Got it. Okay, that answers the questions. Thank you.
Ms. McCall?
As I'm reading this, and when I read this the last time, I kind of interpreted it the same way. The statement that's in here is that bereavement leave is for only 3 days, and it's for attendance of the employee at a funeral or other bereavement service. And so, in any event, and then there's also a definition in here that's very broad, and the WPOA states immediate family as persons related by blood, marriage, domestic partner, or legal adoption. So if this was a child and they're having a service, they're going to get the 3 days off because they're saying they need the time off for the service. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a funeral. It could be however that person was going to handle that situation. Depending on it's depending completely upon that individual. I can't see a supervisor denying that, although I'm being told that it has been done to Councilmember Heffernan.
Not at the city. I would like to clarify that.
Okay. But if that's what our mission is, to take care of our employees, I can't imagine someone saying that they need a service, they need 3 days for a service and not being granted that. I think that the language of this would cover that occurring without getting into having the statement made. That was the consensus.
Yes. Does City Administrator said we didn't find any cities, the cities that we looked at that had that particular bereavement plan. So I think that we tried to cover it as best we could. And as Mary said, it's a case by case, and I can't imagine anybody saying no. But this way, we don't have to get HIPAA laws involved.
All right, will the clerk please take the vote on ordinance number 1391?
Councilmember Frederick.
Aye.
Councilmember Heffernan.
No.
Councilmember McCall.
Aye.
Councilmember Hubbard.
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman.
Aye.
All right, moving on to action item F, approval of informational flyer for levy lid lift to fund police officers and equipment.
Move to approve as amended
In the workshop.
in the workshop.
Okay.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Humbert, seconded by Councilmember McCall. Councilmember Humbert.
I think we went through it in the workshop. I think the verbiage, the punctuation, I think it looks good.
Okay. Councilmember McCall.
I think we worked on it prior to the meeting, and it's ready to go.
Okay, further discussion? All right, will the clerk please take the vote on action item F, approval of an informational flyer for levy lid lift to fund police officers and equipment as amended during workshop this evening.
Councilmember Chapman.
Aye.
Councilmember McCall.
Aye.
Councilmember Heffernan.
Aye.
Councilmember Frederick.
Aye.
Councilmember Hubbard.
Aye.
All right. Chair will accept a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 8:38.
Yes. Where you can find out who had the house fire. I was just looking through here, and I'm confused.